Voyager 2 just made contact with a highly advanced object in deep space, in the cold emptiness beyond our solar system. Something impossible just happened. NASA's Voyager 2, launched nearly 50 years ago and drifting more than 12 billion miles from Earth, just sent back a signal, but not the kind anyone expected. At first, it was silence. Then, a strange pulse broke through the void. Not a glitch, not routine telemetry. A pattern that didn't match anything Voyager was built to send. And just like that, everything changed. Today, we're diving into the chilling mystery behind Voyager 2's contact with what some are calling a highly advanced object, a discovery that could rewrite what we think we know about deep space. In late July 2023, something went terribly wrong. NASA lost contact with Voyager 2 after a bad command accidentally tilted its antenna just 2 degrees away from Earth. Just 2 degrees. That tiny shift meant the spacecraft could no longer hear commands or send signals home. For weeks, it drifted in silence. Then came the impossible. On August 1st, an Australian radio antenna picked up a faint, broken signal. It was Voyager 2. Somehow it had pinged Earth, without being told to, and without having its antenna realigned. Scientists were stunned. It was as if the probe had been nudged or helped. At first, NASA said it was a lucky break, a 1 in a billion alignment, but others weren't convinced, because what Voyager 2 sent next wasn't just a signal. It was strange, slower than expected, fragmented, off-pattern, and that's when things started getting weird. When NASA reestablished limited contact with Voyager 2, they expected the usual, a slow trickle of basic status reports, temperature, battery life, orientation. But what they got was something else entirely. The signal arrived in bursts, not in the clean digital handshake scientists had seen for decades. Instead of crisp telemetry, the transmission came through jagged, like static mixed with something intentional. At first, engineers thought it was just background noise, maybe cosmic interference from deep space radiation. But then, a few started noticing something strange. The bursts weren't random. They had a rhythm, a rise and fall, a kind of pulse. It was almost as if the probe had been hijacked, or was echoing something it had encountered. One researcher described it as the probe talking in a voice that wasn't its own. Another said the signal resembled a crude imitation of human-made structure, like someone trying to speak a language they didn't fully understand. Inside NASA, the room reportedly went silent, not because they thought it was aliens, but because they couldn't explain it. The team pored over the data, frame by frame. They ran simulations. They checked for cosmic dust hits, solar flares, even software malfunctions. Nothing fit. And here's where it gets darker. Some internal sources claim the transmission contained frequencies Voyager wasn't designed to send. Frequencies just outside normal communication bands, as if an external force was modulating the signal from the outside. Something nobody wanted to say out loud. Then, just like that, it stopped. The feed went dark. No warning. No failure code. No countdown. Just silence once again. As if whatever had made contact had decided it was done. But scientists weren't the only ones paying attention. Amateur radio operators, deep space enthusiasts, and even conspiracy theorists had already caught wind of the signal. Screenshots of the waveform were posted online. And what followed was a firestorm of speculation, ranging from secret space programs to extraterrestrial contact. One thing was clear. Something reached Voyager 2. And the deeper experts looked, the more it seemed like the probe hadn't just sent a message back. It had passed one along. In the days following the strange transmission, whispers began circling the astrophysics community. What if Voyager 2 didn't just malfunction? What if it encountered something not built by human hands? This idea, once dismissed as science fiction, started gaining traction after independent analysts examined the signal's pattern. It didn't resemble solar interference. It didn't look like instrument failure. And most chilling of all, it showed response latency, as if someone had received, processed, and then replied to Voyager. Then came the anomaly reports. A telescope array in Chile recorded a fast-moving object near Voyager's last known location. Not a comet, not an asteroid. The object was reflective, metallic, and accelerating. Observers claimed it changed direction, slightly, but unnaturally, before vanishing into the cosmic dark. Some experts speculated it could have been a techno-signature, a term used to describe evidence of non-human engineering in space. Think of it as the alien version of a breadcrumb, something that says, "We're here," without ever speaking. NASA didn't confirm the sighting. They didn't deny it either. But here's the part that makes even seasoned scientists uncomfortable. Voyager 2 was passing through one of the most mysterious zones in space, the outer edge of the heliosphere, where our sun's influence ends and interstellar space begins. It's a region where the rules start to bend, and things get quiet. Too quiet. And now, after decades of drifting alone, it seems Voyager wasn't alone at all. Voyager 2 wasn't drifting through ordinary space. It had entered the heliosheath, a strange, turbulent boundary where the solar wind collides with the pressure of interstellar gas. It's the last breath of our solar system, and one of the least understood regions in all of astrophysics. Scientists have long believed this area might act like a cosmic curtain. On one side, the space we know, flooded with solar particles, magnetism, and light. On the other, the interstellar unknown, cold, silent, untouched. But here's what's disturbing. Voyager 2 isn't the first probe to act strangely in this region. Back in 2012, Voyager 1 entered the heliosheath and recorded sudden, unexplained surges in cosmic rays. Spikes that even NASA couldn't fully explain. Instruments flickered. Radiation sensors went haywire. And then came something scientists couldn't ignore, a strange, persistent hum. It wasn't static. It wasn't background noise. It was a low-frequency vibration coming from deep space, steady, faint, and eerily rhythmic. Voyager 1 heard it for years, and Voyager 2 was about to enter the same zone. Now, with Voyager 2's strange signal and that unidentified object nearby, experts are starting to wonder, is a heliosheath just a boundary, or is it a warning line? A zone where something else listens, and sometimes responds? Because every probe that passes through it seems to come back with more questions than answers. Over a decade before Voyager 2's eerie transmission, its twin, Voyager 1, crossed into interstellar space and encountered something equally strange. At first, it seemed routine. Voyager 1 was still functioning, still transmitting data. But then came the hum. It was faint but steady, a low, monotone vibration, almost like the background noise of deep space had suddenly turned into a mechanical drone. It didn't pulse like a star or echo like cosmic dust. It simply existed, as if something out there was generating it deliberately. Scientists called it a plasma wave emission, but no one could explain its consistency. The tone never faded, never fluctuated. It just stayed. And as Voyager 1 moved deeper into the void, the hum followed. Now, with Voyager 2 sending back its own distorted signal from the same region, researchers are starting to ask a haunting question. What if both probes encounter the same thing? Some say it's just the interstellar medium, charged particles vibrating at the edge of our solar bubble. Others aren't so sure. A few insiders have pointed out that the hum begins only after the probes cross into the heliosheath and never fades afterward, like a door that only opens once you pass a certain point. Or worse, like an alarm that only starts when you've been noticed. If that's true, then Voyager 2's transmission wasn't a fluke. It was a reply, an echo of whatever heard Voyager 1 and decided to wait. As Voyager 2's transmission made headlines, something strange happened behind the scenes. NASA clammed up. Official updates slowed. Key data points disappeared from public-facing dashboards. And while some dismissed it as routine protocol, others started digging deeper, and what they found was chilling. Whispers emerged of a black-budget mission, one the public was never meant to hear about. Allegedly, back in the early 2000s, a covert probe called Echo was launched under a classified initiative. Its mission? To investigate unexplained readings from deep space, started with signals first picked up by Voyager 1. Unlike the Voyager crafts, Echo wasn't meant to collect data for the public. It was outfitted with experimental sensors, silent propulsion, and, according to some sources, a self-destruct protocol if intercepted. The mission vanished from records. No launch footage. No NASA statement. Nothing. Conspiracy forums lit up with claims that Echo had been dispatched toward the very region Voyager 2 is now drifting through. The heliosheath, the boundary, the zone that whispers back. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. Leaked internal memos suggested that Echo never reported back. No signal, no trace, just silence. Some believe it was disabled. Others think it found something so disruptive it was buried immediately. If Echo was real, and if it was launched to follow up on what Voyager 1 and 2 hinted at, then that means NASA knew something was out there, something worth hiding, something we weren't ready to confront. And now, with Voyager 2 sending that distorted message, it might be trying to warn us that what Echo found is still watching. Following the burst of media attention around Voyager 2's strange signal, NASA's public response shifted fast. What began as cautious excitement quickly turned into cold, sterile press releases. The official explanation? A misalignment, a glitch, a happy accident. That contact had even been reestablished. But behind closed doors, it didn't feel so casual. Insiders reported sudden meeting blackouts. Technical teams were told not to comment. And researchers who had been openly analyzing Voyager's data suddenly went quiet. Forums that had been buzzing with updates, archived, threads deleted, almost as if someone wanted to make sure the story didn't grow any bigger. Then came the contradictions. First, NASA said Voyager 2 was sending readable telemetry. Days later, they claimed it was unintelligible. And yet, somehow, they knew exactly when it reoriented itself. That didn't add up. People started asking, if the signal was so garbled, how were they receiving precise status updates? Were we being told everything? Or were we only seeing what they wanted us to see? And perhaps most curious of all, several retired NASA engineers came forward, not with hard proof, but with warnings. One claimed there had been multiple undocumented transmissions from deep space that never reached the public. Another said flatly, Voyager 2 sent more than what they showed you, much more. If NASA was trying to contain the story, it may have already been too late, because now independent researchers were joining the hunt, and the pieces they were putting together pointed to something far bigger than a simple glitch. It didn't take long for whispers to turn into something louder. A former systems engineer, who claimed to have worked on Voyager's telemetry network in the early days, broke his silence on an anonymous forum. His message was brief, almost like a warning. Voyager 2 made contact, not with us, with something watching us. Another anonymous post surfaced shortly after, this one linked to a former contractor with knowledge of deep space transmissions. They hinted that multiple non-human anomalies had been logged over the years, but never acknowledged officially. The post ended with a chilling phrase. If the public knew what we've already found, we'd never look at the stars the same way again. Some dismissed these as hoaxes. Others dug deeper. Cryptic references to a classified channel labeled Dark Echo began circulating, allegedly used by NASA and intelligence agencies to isolate signals not meant for the public. The logs? Scrubbed. The access? Denied. Even more bizarre, archive data from Voyager 2 showed slight fluctuations in its internal clock. Shift that shouldn't be possible. As if time itself had been distorted or manipulated. Scientists still can't explain it. And then came the real twist. A private observatory in South Africa, equipped with a powerful deep space array, reported intercepting a brief signal on the same frequency Voyager 2 used. But it didn't come from the probe. It came from behind it, from somewhere farther, deeper, past the point where our technology has ever gone. Whatever sent it wasn't human. Voyager 2 was never meant to be a messenger. It was a machine, a silent traveler drifting endlessly into the void. But now, after nearly half a century in the dark, it may have whispered back to us with something more than just data, a corrupted signal, a distorted voice, a flicker of something intelligent. Out there, whether the truth lies in malfunction or in mystery, one thing is certain, something touched that probe. Maybe it was the hum of interstellar plasma. Maybe it was a glitch in aging hardware. Or maybe it was something watching from the other side of the boundary. Something that finally decided to say hello. And as Voyager 2 continues to drift farther than any object we've ever built, one terrifying thought lingers. What if we're not just exploring the unknown, but alerting it to our presence?